Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the Liberty Report. With me today is Daniel McAdams, and Daniel, good to see you.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you?
I am doing well,
Good.
and we're going to be talking about Africa. We've talked about, since our government has solved all the problems of remaking the Middle East and everything's going on, but I want to follow up on that quote that we had on the screen there from one of our least favorite senators, Graham. I guess if you wanted to find one individual who had the most opposite opinion from our opinion on foreign policy, he and McCain would compete for that.
Yeah.
Because the war is now morphing, it's going to places that we haven't heard of before, to the American people. We're going to follow the terrorists wherever they go. We're going to use whatever means we need to with partners to destroy them, and whatever time it takes, and most people are not ready for that, but I am.
I want to quote the Washington Post, and this is what he was quoted as saying in the Washington Post. You're going to see more action in Africa, not less. You're going to see more aggression by the United States toward our enemies, not less. You're going to have decisions being made not in the White House, but out in the field. This is a real mess. Looks like it's going to expand, and I imagine we can't expect too much from the Congress.
I think the neocons are selling this as the next big thing. This is going to be it. You know, we don't want to invade North Korea quite yet, but we're going to go ahead and invade Africa. And the quote got cut off a little bit at the end, but really the punchline of the interview between Graham and on the show was, I didn't know there was 1,000 troops in Niger. And that is key.
Totally secret stuff too. They don't even want. Matter of fact, that's his position. He's probably not even surprised he doesn't know. He probably thinks, well, that's the way it should be. You know, we're not supposed to have oversight, let alone for the American people, even the senators. But it is a shame, and that's why it's out of control, and that's why it's so dangerous.
Yeah, it is the Bush doctrine on steroids. And as a matter of fact, another member of the Senate who's on our more favorite side has this quote that we want to put up. Oh, it's Senator Rand Paul. Oh. Well, you know you're in too many wars in too many places when even warmonger Lindsey Graham can't keep track anymore. And I don't know if it's exactly related, but John McCain came out and said, you know, we should really treat each other, the senators, with more respect. And I thought back, isn't that funny? Because it wasn't that many months ago when Senator Paul was opposing Montenegro joining NATO, that John McCain went down to the floor and he said specifically, Rand Paul is working for Vladimir Putin because he didn't want to expand. So what are you talking about respect?
Yeah. You know, at this meeting they had, it was Dunford and Mattis was meeting with Graham and McCain. And Dunford had a meeting, with the press afterwards, and he was emphasizing the same position. He wasn't too far removed from this, about going to find any terrorist group wherever. And he says simultaneously, wherever they are, we'll go. And where we anticipate that they might go. How could anything be more open? That reminds us of, the preemptive war, not until we're attacked. I mean, a preemptive or preventive war of the Bush doctrine, and it's just more of the same. And it was more or less endorsed by Republicans and Democrats. To those four individuals being killed in Niger. When we first brought this up earlier, last week, and we said, I looked up a map and it said that we were in like 17 countries, and we had a map of which was acknowledged where we were. And I said, we probably missed some. And I said, well, it didn't even have Libya on there. But now, when the Pentagon and the administrations had some pressure on them, instead of having 100 people there, they're admitting we have 6,000 people in Africa, and that they even put the number out. They say we have some military in 53 of the 54 countries in Africa. That's pretty expensive.
Talk about an occupation. You made a good point about the only thing we've heard about the Niger thing, these 4 troops being killed, of course, but the main thing has been this ridiculous, phony controversy over the president's phone call to the widow of one of those killed. Back and forth. And all the talking heads play their appointed roles. The Republicans are going to say one thing. The Democrats are saying the other. And no one is talking about why are we there. No one's talking about what they're doing. It's all this phony, contrived thing. We used to have allies on the left when we were opposing the Bush doctrine of preemptive war. That is mostly evaporated now. It's evaporated into this ridiculous name calling over what Bush said on the phone.
You know,
Or what Trump said on the phone, sorry.
Right. And, you know, and the Pentagon admits that they're going to increase military activity in Africa. They didn't come get permission or explain it. It's only when it's found out, then they'll say that they are doing it. They said that's part of their global strategy. You know, what is the global strategy? Well, we suspect we know what it is. It has to do with a new world order, but we're going to be in charge, and you know, Trump is not going to let other people do it, so we're going to continue with our imperialism and our empire. And I think that is the strategy. But you know, there was some war games. War games are games. They're not serious. They've just got finished some over there in South Korea, but they're significant. It's propaganda. They send in messages. They're threats and intimidations. But they had some war games recently on what might happen in 2020, I think. You know, and it was, you know, the taking over of Africa. And when I read it, the little note I wrote to myself was, I think they suggested be 2024 I said, or sooner.
Yeah.
But they're already really involved in setting the stage for this. But isn't it absolutely ironic and unbelievable? You know, we have a policy of these last 15 years or so, or well, even longer. We failed in Korea to solve that problem. We're still fighting that war. And then we had a total failure in Vietnam. And then we moved our strategy. We were going to go to remake the Middle East. Both parties have been supporting, you know, all this activity going on, and all of a sudden there's total failure here. Look at Afghanistan and Iraq and the tendency to try to start a war with Iran. So they're a little frustrated with that. There's not many victories. It looks like Iran and Russia have gained more from our policies than we have. So now they're shifting, you know, to Africa. What makes them think that they're going to solve the problems of Africa any better than they've solved the problems of the Middle East? You know, and what they won't even consider and they won't recognize is that the foreign policy of intervention and our aggression over there is the reason we have terrorists wanting to kill us. So who knows how it will end, but it can't continue this way. But the American people have to do what they can to send out the message and send that message to Congress so the viewpoints change. And fortunately, we do have the internet to express ourselves the best we can. But because the media really is not on our side, and the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, they're not with us either. It's the establishment, it's the New World Order, it's the deep state that has to be exposed. When they are exposed, especially when this thing comes down on us, we will have the opportunity, because I think the message of a liberty is alive and well, economically speaking, and the people now who are fed up with these wars, we hear from them all the time. So it's out there, but we need, you know, a lot more activity. We need a lot more involvement and a lot more understanding, because numbers do count eventually. But originally, though, ideas are what counts. That makes all the difference in the world. And an idea whose time has come can't be stopped by the army or the governments. And that is the reason I'm optimistic that the ideas of peace and prosperity will prevail. And I think that is worth working for. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.